Hey, are you thinking about going to NP school? Well, you've probably heard a lot about the academic challenges that are part of NP school, but what about the things you haven't heard about? Some of those unexpected hurdles, some of those unexpected challenges that just aren't really in those nice, pretty school brochures that you get. In this video, I'm going to dive into some of those things that I learned kind of haphazardly, but now that I've graduated from NP school and working as an NP, when I think back on it, there are things that I think that most students just aren't ready to understand or don't realize before they start. So hang on, we're going to get into it. Hi, my name is Rick. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And on my channel, I talk about my experiences going through nurse practitioner school, the things that worked for me, the things that didn't work for me. And I also talk about my experience working as a nurse practitioner. So when you're thinking about NP school, it's important to understand that for the several years that you're going to be in NP school, your life is going to change a little bit. It's not just about, sitting online for lectures or reading books and taking tests. I mean, it is a huge commitment of time. It is a huge commitment of quality of life, balance of life in many ways. And it's a huge commitment of your energy as well. I think that if you're, and for most students, you're probably going to be working while you're going to NP school. More than likely you have a family or you have significant people in your life that you want to spend time with. All of those things are going to be impacted by nurse practitioner school. Now, I was a little bit older than most students are when I went back to school, and I was in maybe a little bit of a different financial situation. But I immediately recognized that working full-time and being fully committed to the curriculum in my NP program for almost 2.5 years was not going to work out well. So I stepped back and began working in a PRN role, worked for the same employer, but I really only worked about 1 or 2 shifts a week for the almost 2.5 years that I was in NP school. And then I think about another one of the unexpected challenges is kind of just the emotional and lifestyle strain that this creates. Emotional is because you have now added an extremely complicated, in some ways, an extremely demanding endeavor on top of your life as a registered nurse. And that's going to take a toll. It's going to create stress. I actually picked up almost 15 pounds when I was in nurse practitioner school, and I'm still, if you've watched my channel, I'm very much an advocate of healthy lifestyle, healthy eating, exercise. I was doing those things. I think it was just the increase in adrenaline and cortisol that really helped me pile that on. And there were many, many nights after, working a 12-hour shift, coming home and doing, 2 hours of study, that all I wanted to do was sit on the couch and eat a bag of chips. And not the healthiest thing to do, but I just wasn't motivated to do anything else or to be a part of it. And that's something you got to think about when you're going into NP school. Again, it's not just sitting in front of a computer screen and listening to a professor or reading a book or going off on clinicals. Your life has to change and revolve around it. I think that's very much underappreciated by a lot of students. You also have a tremendous pressure to succeed. Hey, let's face it, nurse practitioner school is expensive. Some people take out loans, some people pay it out of pocket, some people are, fortunate enough to have an employer that will pay the fee for them to go to nurse practitioner school. But it's expensive, it's a strain, and you've got to be prepared for that. There's a lot of pressure to succeed. You're shelling out all this money. You're taking all this time away from your family, and you feel obligated that you have to do well. And in most programs, you have to be at a B level or above, or you might get one shot at repeating a semester. Otherwise, you're out, and that's a tremendous amount of pressure as well. And I don't want to gloss over the financial side of it. I took a reduced amount of income because I stepped back from the job that I was working. Fortunately, I was in a position to do that, but I know not everybody is. If you can, I really recommend that you do that. But it's not just books. I mean, it's not just tuition. It's not just books. There's all kinds of fees that your school adds onto it. You're probably going to want to get supplemental study materials because, you just can't read the book, listen to the lecture, and pass the class. At least I couldn't. I needed some supplemental resources to help me get through it. And those things have a cost as well. You might have to take days off from work to prepare that you weren't anticipating. There's going to be a cost in that as well. So I think you have to look at those things and factor those in. I would recommend when you're talking to your school about fees and things that you're going to have to use to pay for the school, ask about all these online fees, lab fees, registration fees, and things like that. It's not just tuition. I remember semesters where I was spending $500 just on textbooks. So take that into account as well. So I want to talk a little bit also about some of the hurdles and hidden challenges that have to deal with time management while you're in school. Just balancing life and school altogether. I think it's overlooked, even if people that are real organized, and I consider myself a very organized person. I consider myself, someone who is very efficient as well. But I found that time management was a struggle. One of the things, and I've done a couple of videos about this. If I can, I'll put the links in the description to that. I found that Google Calendar was an invaluable tool. When at the beginning of the semester, I put all of my assignments in my Google Calendar, gave them a different color so that they would show up in my Outlook calendar. You can link the two so that every week I could look ahead, and sometimes every 2 weeks, look ahead and know exactly what was coming up and what had to be done. The other thing I tried to do was work ahead as much as I could so I wasn't going to be caught in the trap of trying to cram and get something done at the very, very last minute. I also let my employer know what I was doing, and I guess I was fortunate. I don't know if this is true for everybody, but my employer was very supportive of me going to nurse practitioner school, even though they knew I would probably not be working for them after I graduated. They were very, very supportive in scheduling and things of that nature. So one of the things I did to try to keep that balance was immediately went to them and said, hey, I'm going to be going to school. This is some of the things that might come up. Can we work around that? So I encourage you to have that conversation with your employer as well if you're about to embark on this, or if you're finding there's difficulty in the balance that you're having between work and school. There's also the challenge of finding personal time. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to have a lot less personal time. You've got to let your family understand that there's going to be hours after work, hours on days off from work that you're just going to have to squirrel away and be studying. But the flip side of that is you need to make time for personal time. So, if you know that your kids have a ball game coming up on Saturday, if you know that there's an event that you and your spouse or your partner need to go to, you got to budget that in and plan your study, plan your paper writing, all that around those, because you can't completely neglect them. You have to set up time for yourself, or you're going to go absolutely insane in nurse practitioner school. And kind of on this time management topic, last thing I want to say is that you have to take the time for self-care, even if it's just a walk around the block a couple of times during the day. You have to do those things. Yes, sometimes I just vegged out, sat on the couch with a bag of chips, and just had to decompress that way. But I knew that was happening, so I made sure on other times throughout most days I was trying to be as healthy in my diet as I possibly could. And that's something that's going to creep into you in nurse practitioner school, is these things. You're going to get away from the healthy habits that you have now just because you feel so pressed to get everything done. But you just have to make time for that. If you're sick, if you're unhealthy, you're not going to excel in nurse practitioner school. So schedule in those workouts. I found that the Pomodoro technique which I've done a couple videos about that, was very, very helpful. So I would study hard, uninterrupted, no social media, no email, no phone calls, for 50 straight minutes. Then I would get up and just walk for 10 minutes. I would do push-ups and maybe walk, do some squats or something like that. Some kind of activity to help keep me healthy during that time and break up the monotony of just studying and studying and studying. Hey, nurse practitioner school can be very lonely, especially if you're doing it all online. You know, you'll probably have a cohort, and I was in a cohort of 8 other people. We were actually the very first group to go through our school's PMHMP program. We communicated through the GroupMe app frequently. We saw each other online in group meetings. Our program did have us come to the campus several times throughout the program, so we got to see each other that way. But for the most part, it's pretty lonely. You're just going it kind of all by yourself. So it's important to have a support system. And this is something I think they don't talk about very much as one of the things that you're going to need to do in nurse practitioner school. I think this is very much a hidden challenge, is that if you've got people in your cohort that you have any kind of connection with, try to make time to be a part of them. Try to have a community of people that are going through the same thing. That's one of the reasons why I started our community for this channel, is so that we can communicate, that people understand that there's a lot of others in the same boat that they are, to build at least a simple support network, because it's so important when you're doing something so challenging but yet very much alone. So I hope this helps you understand some of the hidden challenges and hurdles that you're going to come up against. I mean, some of them hit me like a brick wall because I was unprepared for it. But I hope this helps you get through some of those. It's very, very challenging to go through nurse practitioner school. I think it's difficult, it's stressful. But you have to keep in mind a few things. First of all, keep in mind your why. Why are you doing this? And the reason that you're going into that. That's always kind of got to be at the forefront of your mind, so it keeps you going through it. Also, keep in mind that it's challenging, but it's very, very rewarding. I am loving my job as a nurse practitioner. I am so glad I went through school. I am so glad that I'm doing what I'm doing now. To me, it's like night and day from bedside nursing, and I really, really enjoy it. So I'm so glad that I did it. And I hope that encourages you, because I feel like it was very, very much worth the effort for me. So I think go through the videos, some of the videos that I've done. I really started videos in my second semester of nurse practitioner school over 2.5 years ago. And I talk about some of the challenges that I came up with. And I give you some advice for the emotional side of this. You really, really need to watch the video about the things you need to do to prepare for nurse practitioner school. One of the big things is you've got to prepare your family for what's coming up. They've got to understand that for 2 to 2.5 years, or however long your program is, you're not going to be there 100%. You're just not. And so they've got to be prepared for that. But you can do this. If I got through it, I know you can get through it. You've got the power. You've got if you didn't have the intelligence, you wouldn't got through nursing school. So you're there. You can do it. You just have to have that desire and that perseverance to press through and do the things that have to be done. When you graduate, it's a huge relief, but you then have an entire new rewarding career ahead of you. So let me encourage you to do that. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you like what you heard, please consider subscribing to the channel. At least give that video a thumbs up. That helps get the message out to so many other potential nurse practitioner students and existing students that might benefit from this information. And while you're at it, why don't you share this with some of your colleagues? Appreciate it very much, and I'll see you in the next video.